All right, hey guys, OFD checking in here, and I think I've made you wait long enough for the full review of the DOXA. Now, I've had this watch for just a little bit over a week, and I have to tell you guys, it's pretty much spent all of that time on my wrist. I've rotated a couple other watches in and out, but to be honest with you, I've really fallen in love with this DOXA. I kind of knew I would getting into it just because I've coveted the watch for so long, but it's been really fun. As a matter of fact, I've actually picked out a couple new bracelets that it's actually spent more time on these two bracelets than the original factory rubber strap that I bought the watch on. So I'll show you those two on the watch here towards the end of the video when we do the wrist check and everything like that. But I wanted to really tell you more about this watch and kind of get into a full review of it. Now, if you guys did see the unboxing of the watch, you know that the strap that comes on the watch, they're huge. They're super long, and you cut them to fit. Just for example, as a matter of fact, let me set the watch down here. This is what I had to cut off that strap, and you guys can see, I mean, you've got quite a bit of material here that I cut off, and so I cut these two chunks first, but left it a little fat just in case I wanted to, and then did my final measuring with that because I have a 7-inch wrist, and I actually had to take, you know, a good amount off of here. You guys can see probably took 3-4 inches off of there. So again, it was probably, it could fit a 10-inch wrist if need be. Now, incredible watches. These watches have a rich history, and I'll get into more of that. But first of all, I want to get the specs of the watch out of the way first. So watch case side to side, not including the crown, is 42.5 millimeter, 44.5 lug tip to lug tip. So it's that really very easy wearing cushion case design because it's so round on the wrist. 14 millimeters of thickness from the case back to the top of the flat box sapphire crystal, and you have 20 millimeter lug openings. It's not really a box sapphire crystal, but the edges are kind of like that. So, but really, really beautiful, beautiful timepiece. Now, if you know DOXA watches, you understand this bezel system here. The idea, and this was really put out there by Jacques Cousteau and the Diving Association at the time, the U.S. Diving Association, what they wanted a bezel that you could actually not only time the duration of your dive, but time your decompression stops. And so we'll show you how this bezel works. Now, it's a nice, really clean 120 click bezel. And so we'll go ahead and set it on the timer, on the minute hand like you would for diving. Now, let's say we're doing a 15-minute dive or whatever, that's fine. At 120 foot, that lets you know that you can stay down at that 120 feet for about 15 minutes before you have to start doing dive compression stops. So it's really important to know the timing of that type of thing for your dive compression stop. So, you know, the less depth you're at, the longer amount of time you can spend down there at that depth without having to have those decompression stops. But it's obviously part of understanding diving and dive times and everything like that is having enough time to do those decompression stops so you don't suffer the bends or the cramps, you know, on the way up. So really nice bezel. Everything on this thing lines up, and it's just really cool. The pip on this actually is the orange one, and that's the one that actually glows, and I'll show you that with the lume shot, and it does glow orange, so really, really cool. The dial layout on this watch is just no nonsense, no fuss. It just is really about getting the job done. You can see these nice square painted on indices all the way around. A bright, polished inky black is being used on the outside of the lume on those. You can see that nice big squared off lume pip on the second hand. No problem that you're going to be able to see that in a dark situation in the water. Very useful. Big, thick minute hand. And a lot of people have commented that, well, I don't like how big the minute hand is compared to the hour hand. Reason being is on a dive watch, you're not really using the hour hand. It's really about the minute hand. You're not, you know, diving for hours and hours. So the minute hand is really the one that you're watching and keeping an eye on. The text on the dial is simple and clean. You have your DOXA automatic over here around the 10 o'clock position, then over here at 4, the SUB-300T and professional. Just so you know, the orange dials are the only ones that have the professional there on them. The other ones have the Caribbean and all the different other names that they use for the watches. Swiss made right down here at the 6 o'clock position. I like the way, and since we have it close here, we'll look at it, the polishing on the bezel. Very nicely done. Then you have the brushing on the inside ring here. Very cool. Knurling on the bezel is super easy to grab. Very grippy as you would expect in a nice dive watch. Signed crown here on the watch. But just beautifully, beautifully done. I do love this rubber strap on the watch. It's about, you know, I bought this watch. I probably should have done it, but I bought it on the rubber strap, so I don't have the beads of rice bracelet. I'm not a huge fan of the beads of rice bracelet, and I'll show it to you on my shark mesh strap here, which it really, really does look good on the watch. So DOXA, the company itself was founded back in 1889 by a gentleman named Georges Ducamon. Camon. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that right, but in the Lalac, Jura region of Switzerland, in the mountains there, where so many beautiful Swiss watches are made. Making watches, one of the most important watches they made at that time in 1908 was the 8-day caliber, which they basically were making for racing, because automotive endurance racing was really huge at that time in the early 1900s, and to have a 8-day caliber watch that they could put in the cars. As a matter of fact, all the Bugattis that were selling at that time came with that clock inside of them. So pretty special. In 1967, they created the 300T. Very impressive watch. It was a no-nonsense diver, created with the help of actually Jacques Cousteau and the U.S. Divers Association, which he at the time was I do believe, the president or the chairman of. So a lot of real dive history and important things go into this watch when you think about it. Another thing that is pretty innovative on this watch is the helium escape valve. They released this in 1969, which is 2 years before Rolex actually released their patented helium escape valve on their Rolex Sea Dweller. So pretty impressive with that. So in the early 90s and whatnot, the company was hit hard by the quartz crisis, and the company was about ready to fold up. In 1997, they were purchased by the Jenny family. And in 2001, the family, really loving the heritage behind this watch here, re-released the 300T in all of its original glory. I mean, really released the watch the way it should be, offering all kinds of neat different dial colors out there. So really, really cool. Orange dial. Why does it have an orange dial? If you guys aren't familiar, the orange dial, they've done tests with this back when they were actually testing all the dials on DOXAs with blues, with blacks and everything like that. Orange is the easiest dial to be able to read under the depths and the dark of the water. It maintains its legibility. Let's put it that way. It maintains its legibility to depths and in darkness better than any other color out there. So interestingly, though, Jacques Cousteau actually chose the black-dialed Shark Hunter as the one that he wanted to wear for most of his diving expeditions, which was kind of interesting. So very, very cool watch. Let's go ahead and pause it for a second. We'll try out the original strap first, get this watch on my 7-inch wrist, and then stick around because, as usual, we'll go with that loom shot at the end. So the watch fits my 7-inch wrist very nicely. That short lug-to-lug at 44.5 fits well. This factory rubber strap is incredible. It hugs the wrist perfectly. It curves to the wrist. As a matter of fact, we'll pull it off here in a second. I'll show you how it looks on the case back. You also have your adjustability of your dive extension here. Easy, simple to do with the push of a button. I can even do it here on camera simply. And it's nice because you have, I think there's about 10 positions in here, and you can adjust it out to about a half an inch. So really great for expansion and contraction, or your wrist as it swells. I want to show you the strap and the bracelet, the assembly here. Just very, very well put together. High quality stuff here. It looks like maybe I got some plastic on there still, which is probably keeping it in good shape, but I got too much going on in the background, so let's focus on that. You can see that clasp assembly there. That ratcheting assembly there, look how nicely that works. But really, really nicely put together watches. Here's the case back, which I forgot to show you earlier. Sorry about that bump. But the DOXA SUB-300T helium valve patented bezel system. That bezel is patented. And 120 atmospheres. So yeah, this is a 4,000-foot watch as far as being waterproof. So let's go ahead and throw those other two bracelets on or straps on really, really quick. And then make sure you stick around for that loom shot. All right, so here's the watch. I figured I had it on a rubber strap before. Let's throw it on the shark mesh. I really like it on here. Excuse me, because I actually put the clasp on. I put it on the wrong side, but it fits. It works for the video. You guys can see how this one looks. I just kind of like the way this squares up and meets up to the case. The nice clean with the lugs there. No flare over the lugs like that. For some reason, for me, I kind of like that look. Some people don't, but that's just my preference. So I'm actually going to throw it on the ISO frame, the black ISO frame that I just got for it. Man, this is my favorite strap, so let's throw it on that one. All right, so this strap is my favorite. This is a real ISO frame strap. I got this off Amazon. These straps are stupid expensive, but I just really wanted to have it. I love the orange, but the orange was a little bit much for me on the strap. I am going to keep the strap, of course, but so I bought this ISO frame, and honestly, it's going to stay on here for quite a while. So very, very cool watch. I know if you guys are fans of Clive Cussler, you know that the DOXA is the Dirk Pitt watch. It's depicted so many times in the movies that, it becomes a character. And if you love the books, I think I've read every single one of his books with Dirk Pitt in it, and he's just a pure adventure. And to know that he picked out that watch for the book and for that character is really cool and fun. And really what's the most impressive part about it is people think, oh, he just picked out a watch, but that's not true. Clive Cussler, the author, actually worked in a dive shop before he was an author, and the owner of the dive shop at one time gifted him with a DOXA 300T diver, and that was it. He was in love, and it, of course, got written into every Dirk Pitt book out there ever since. So let's dim the lights and check out the impressive lume on this one. All right, if you guys have made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you, because it's been forever since I've posted a 10-minute video or 10-minute plus video. But, you know, to talk about the DOXA, I really kind of wanted to have that much time. And I think to you, it'll kind of prove to you how much I'm a big fan of this watch. It's just a really impressive timepiece, something I'm super happy to have in the collection. So Super Luminova being used on this watch. One thing I forgot to mention to you guys, not important at all, is the movement. I do believe this is around the Sellita SW-200 in it, or the ETA movement. I do believe this one's running the Sellita, though, because it's a later model, and it did say 38 hours of power reserve, which I do think is indicative of the Sellita SW-200 and 25 joule movement. So hacking, hand windable, of course, all that good stuff. But most of you guys already know that about the DOXA. But really impressive timepiece, guys. Thanks for sticking around for 11 minutes. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you've not subscribed to the OFD channel yet, please do. Please do. Thanks, guys.